Hey, what's going on, guys? So, we just got a new Assassin's Creed Shadows update, and this one is pretty much all about tightening things up, cleaning out bugs, and fixing a bunch of weird little issues that have been hanging around in the game. The main thing here is that the patch is focused on gameplay fixes, and a lot of them are aimed at specific modifiers and perk interactions. For example, there was a problem in domains where Naoe's grab and throw ability were not breaking enemy armor when Find the Gap was active, which is the sort of thing that can make combat feel off in a really annoying way. That is fixed now. They also cleaned up an issue where adrenaline drain and ability lockdown could sometimes show up together, which sounds like a miserable combo if you were unlucky enough to run into it. Another domain fix dealt with the Momochi Sandayu boss fight using the wrong animation when defeated, so instead of getting the proper death animation, the game would play the wrong one. It is a small detail, sure, but it matters when you are in the middle of a boss fight and something just looks off. There was also a bug where players could get stuck in the first domain if the speedrun modifier was active, which is the kind of thing that can really kill the pacing of a run. That has been sorted out. And maybe one of the most important combat fixes in the whole update is the one for fading perfection. Before this patch, that engraving was removing 99% of Naoe's health on ability use, instead of the intended 20%. That is not a balance issue, that is basically a disaster. So fixing that alone is a huge deal for anyone actually using the engraving. On top of that, there are some gear and perk fixes that should make builds work the way players expected them to in the first place. Several perks that depend on conditions like backstabs, critical hits, headshots, posture attacks, or hitting afflicted and vulnerable enemies were not getting their 50% boost when engraved on enhanced gear, even though the UI made it look like they were. So if you were wondering why some of your damage numbers felt wrong, that may have been part of it. They also fixed kunai and shuriken bypassing enemy armor in domains when Find the Gap was active, plus the ice shard effect from the Shiver of the Mountain armor doing the same thing. On top of that, perks that prevent death were not triggering before the You Only Live Once modifier, which is the kind of interaction that can completely change how a build behaves. Naoe's Memento Lasir perk was also fixed, since it was not giving money or even showing a notification when grabbing enemies. And if you ran into missing engravings after the previous update, there was a fix for that too, including trinket engravings like Masakato's Vengeance not showing up or being transferable anymore. There are also a bunch of visual and text fixes in this patch, and these are the kinds of things that players notice more than they might think. The peasant hat engraving was showing its base 6% value instead of the boosted one in the inventory and forge menus. The Pirate King hat perk description was wrong. A couple of forge unlock conditions were blank when they should have shown the correct requirements, and several assassination perk descriptions were displaying hard-coded values instead of updating properly when upgraded. That kind of thing can make build planning a mess, so it is good to see it cleaned up. They also addressed a frame rate drop issue in domains after killing enemies while the Avenger modifier was active, which is the sort of performance problem that can really break the flow during combat. The quest fixes are probably the most spoiler-sensitive part of this update, but they are important too. In Claws of Awaji, Tsuyu could get stuck in the terrain if the player jumped before using the grappling hook. In Buried Secrets, dying and respawning could make Rufino disappear, which meant you could not open the barrier and continue the mission. Black Tide's got a few fixes as well, including a weird cutscene issue where Eamon could still appear holding his sword even after an execution had severed his forearm. Another cutscene fix stops Yasuke and Naoe from appearing with their headgear on during the epilogue, which got especially noticeable with larger helmets or masked gear. They also fixed the missing wanted posters for Naoe and Yasuke in the hideout wall decoration selection. And finally, there are a couple of audio and language fixes too. Yasuke's Mecha Mask audio was not playing properly during a Black Tides cutscene, and some simplified Chinese text was showing squares instead of the correct characters. So all in all, this is one of those updates that looks pretty routine at first, but once you go through the notes, it is actually doing a lot of cleanup across combat, gear, quests, visuals, and presentation. It is the kind of patch that should make the game feel a lot more stable and a lot less random in the places where it really mattered.